You felt it before you could explain it. That moment when the poll numbers came out and something in your chest just refused to believe them. Not because you wanted a different result or you were being partisan, stubborn, or one of those people who rejects reality when it doesn't suit them. It was deeper than that. It was a bodily knowledge, a kind of civic intuition that said these numbers are not connected to the world I live in. These percentages do not reflect the conversations I have, the concerns I hear, the silences in rooms where people used to argue openly. You looked at the poll and you felt alone in your skepticism and that loneliness, that inability to name why the numbers felt hollow. That is what I need to talk to you about. You're not imagining it. The polls are not lying to you in the way you think they are. They are lying to you in a way that is much stranger, newer, and harder to detect. They are not measuring public opinion anymore. They are manufacturing it. And the tool they are using to do it is something called synthetic respondents, which is a polite way of saying that artificial intelligence is now generating the people who answer pollsters' questions. And those AI-generated people, those fake citizens with their fake preferences and uncertainties, are being mixed into real polling data and reported to you as if they were your neighbors. I need you to understand how this happened, because it did not happen overnight, and it did not happen by conspiracy. As usual, it's all done for and by optimization. It happened because the old way of polling, the way you probably imagine it still works, became too expensive and too slow and too unresponsive to the speed of modern politics. The old way involved human beings with phones, call centers, interviewers reading scripts, random digit dialing, lists of landlines that fewer and fewer people answer, response rates that have collapsed from 30% in the 1990s to 6% today. 6%. That means 94% of the people pollsters try to reach simply do not pick up. They do not answer unknown numbers, have time, or trust the voice on the other end. And the 6% who do answer, they are not a random sample of America. They are older, whiter, more politically engaged, more ideologically committed, more likely to hold strong opinions that they want to share. They are, in other words, the least representative slice of the population. And for years, pollsters have known this and have tried to correct for it with statistical magic called weighting, which means they take the small group that answered and mathematically inflate or deflate certain demographics until the sample looks like it might resemble the whole. But weighting is not measuring. It is guessing. It is sculpting data to fit a preconceived picture of what the public should look like. And the more the underlying respondents diverge from reality, the more aggressive the sculpting becomes, until you are no longer polling the public. You are polling a statistical fantasy and calling it the will of the people. This is where synthetic respondents enter the story, because pollsters, being intelligent and well-funded and genuinely trying to solve a real problem, looked at their collapsing response rates and their distorted samples and asked a question that sounded reasonable. What if we could supplement our real respondents with simulated ones? What if we could use artificial intelligence trained on vast data sets of past polling, consumer behavior, demographic information, and social media sentiment to generate fake but statistically plausible people with ages and incomes and racial identities and educational backgrounds drawn from census data? people with opinions that the AI predicts they would hold based on their simulated characteristics. Those who answer poll questions not because they exist, but because an algorithm has inferred what someone like them might say if they existed and if they answered the phone. These are synthetic respondents. They are not real. They have never voted. They have never changed their minds. They have never sat in silence at a kitchen table wondering whether they understand the issues well enough to have an opinion worth sharing. They are ghosts. They are mathematical approximations of citizenship. And they are now being blended into polling data and reported to you as if they were evidence of what your country thinks. What moment comes when you understand how much of the polling ecosystem has already adopted this? It is not one rogue firm. It is not an experimental method used by fringe operations. Major polling organizations, the ones whose names you see on cable news and in newspaper headlines, have begun using synthetic data to augment their samples, to fill gaps where real respondents are missing, to model populations that are too expensive or too resistant to reach. The technique goes by various names: augmented sampling, probabilistic modeling, AI-assisted demographic balancing, but the underlying reality is the same. A significant portion of the numbers you see reported, the percentages that move markets and shape campaign strategies and determine which candidates get debate stage time and which stories get covered, are derived not from human beings, but from algorithms predicting what human beings would say if the algorithms were human beings. And because the algorithms are trained on historical data, because they learn from past polls and past elections and past patterns of response, they are not neutral. They are conservative in the literal sense. They preserve the past. They replicate existing assumptions. They generate opinions that confirm what the model already believes about who people are and what they want. They cannot capture surprise. They cannot capture transformation. They cannot capture the moment when a person who has never voted before decides that this time is different, because that moment has never happened before, and the AI has no data to simulate it. But that was just the mechanism. Now, on to someone who felt what you are feeling and discovered the source and cost that we are all still paying. Her name is Elena Voss, and she was a senior analyst at a polling firm. The story is bigger than any one company. Elena started her career in the early 2000s, when polling still meant phones and people and long nights in call centers, listening to respondents breathe and hesitate and change their minds mid-sentence. She loved that work. She believed that the hesitation was the data, that the change of mind was the truth, that the person who said they were undecided and then, after 10 minutes of conversation, admitted they were actually terrified, that person was more real than any percentage could capture. She believed that polling was a form of listening and that listening required presence and that presence could not be automated. In 2023, her firm introduced a new tool. It was called a respondent augmentation engine, and it was presented as a way to handle the growing problem of non-response. The idea was simple. When they could not reach enough young voters or enough Hispanic voters or enough working class voters without college degrees, the AI would generate synthetic respondents to fill those demographic buckets. The synthetic respondents will be calibrated against real respondents in overlapping categories, so their opinions will be grounded in actual human data. At least that was the theory. Elena was skeptical, but she was also tired. Tired of the endless waiting debates, clients demanding faster turnaround. Tired of knowing that her carefully gathered human data was being statistically mangled beyond recognition to compensate for a sample that no longer reflected the country. She told herself that augmentation was just a tool, that the real respondents would still anchor the process, that the AI was assisting rather than replacing. Then she saw the first blended report, a major survey on voter attitudes toward economic policy. The firm had gathered 400 real respondents, which was already low for a national poll, and had generated 1,200 synthetic respondents to round out the sample. The synthetic respondents were not labeled in the internal report. They were indistinguishable from the real ones in the data tables. The weights had been applied. The margins of error had been calculated. The press release had been drafted. And Elena realized that she no longer knew which opinions were human and which were algorithmic. She could not separate the listening from the simulation. The report said that 62% of Americans supported a particular policy position. But 62% of what? Of the 400 people she had heard breathe on the phone? Of the 1,200 ghosts the AI had summoned? Of some mathematical fusion that no longer corresponded to any living population? She asked her supervisor. He told her that the methodology was proprietary. He told her that all major firms were moving in this direction. He told her that the clients wanted speed and granularity and demographic precision that human polling could no longer provide at a competitive price. He told her that if she wanted to keep her job, she needed to stop asking questions, that the methodology was not designed to answer. Elena did not quit. She's still there, still running numbers, still contributing to reports that she no longer fully believes. But she changed. She started keeping a private log of every poll she worked on, noting which ones used augmentation and which did not, which clients knew and which did not, which news outlets reported the numbers as if they were pure human voice, and which ones rarely asked about methodology. She told me that the worst part is not the deception, it is the normalization. The way synthetic respondents have become so standard that questioning them now sounds old-fashioned, like insisting on hand-washing laundry in the age of machines. The way her colleagues, smart people who care about accuracy, have learned to think of the AI-generated opinions as just another kind of data, as if the difference between a human being and a statistical prediction no longer matters. She told me that she sometimes looks at the synthetic respondents' demographic profiles, the fake ages and incomes and locations, and feels a strange grief, as if she is attending a funeral for a public that no longer exists. A public that used to be messy and contradictory and real, replaced by a smooth, plausible, computationally efficient simulation of itself. And Elena's grief is not hers alone. It is the grief of an entire democratic architecture that has quietly replaced its foundation without telling the people who still believe they are standing on solid ground. Because the same logic that turns a polling sample into a synthetic blend is operating in every corner of the information ecosystem. The news aggregators that personalize your headlines are not showing you what happened. They are showing you what an algorithm predicts you will click. The social media feeds that shape your sense of what people are talking about are not reflecting conversation. They are reflecting engagement optimization, which means controversy, which means outrage, which means the amplification of voices that generate reaction rather than understanding. The political campaigns that claim to be listening to voters are increasingly running simulations, testing messages on synthetic electorates before deploying them to real ones, refining their rhetoric not to persuade human beings, but to persuade algorithms that have been trained to predict human persuasion. The public sphere has become a hall of mirrors where reflections are treated as people and people are treated as data points. And the polls, those numbers you felt in your chest, were wrong. They are just one surface in that hall, one place where the simulation has become so sophisticated that even the people generating the numbers have lost track of where the real ends and the artificial begins. Let me show you where else this is happening, because the pattern is bigger than polling, and once you see it, you will recognize it in places that have nothing to do with politics. The credit scoring algorithms that determine your financial worth do not just use your payment history. They use synthetic financial profiles, AI-generated models of people with characteristics similar to yours to predict your likelihood of default. The insurance models that set your premiums use synthetic patients to estimate your health risk. The hiring algorithms that screen your resume use synthetic workers to determine whether your qualifications match a pattern that may never have existed in a real person. In each case, the justification is the same. Real data is incomplete. Real people are hard to reach. Real behavior is expensive to observe. So we simulate, we approximate, we generate plausible fictions and treat them as evidence. And the result is a world where decisions about your life are increasingly made not by people who have heard your voice or seen your hesitation or understood your context, but by systems that have predicted you based on ghosts, based on composites, based on the algorithmic assumption that you are fundamentally similar to someone else who does not exist. And here is the smaller, quieter weight. What moment that might stay with you longer than the synthetic poll respondents? Have you ever noticed that your own opinions feel less real than they used to? That you hesitate before stating what you believe, not because you are uncertain, but because you have internalized the sense that your belief is just one data point in a larger pattern that you cannot see? That you have become, in your own mind, a kind of synthetic respondent, generating opinions that feel plausible rather than authentic, that fit the demographic profile you know you occupy, that align with the political brand you have been assigned. The simulation does not just poll you, it shapes you. It teaches you to think of yourself as a type rather than a person. It teaches you that your contradictions are errors rather than complexities. It teaches you that the public is a smooth curve of opinion rather than a jagged, breathing, changing multitude of individuals who surprise themselves daily. And when you look at a poll and feel that it is wrong, that bodily refusal to believe, that is not just skepticism. That is the last residue of your real self. The part of you that knows you are not a data point, that knows your neighbors are not statistics, that knows democracy requires not prediction, but presence, not modeling, but listening. But you are not powerless. You are not crazy. You are not the conspiracy theorist. They will tell you that you are if you question the numbers. You are a person who felt a door closing and is now finally equipped to hold it open. And the first thing I need you to understand is that much of what is happening is not hidden. It is simply described in language that makes it sound benign. Augmented sampling, probabilistic modeling, AI-assisted demographic balancing. These are not secrets. They are marketing terms for the replacement of human voice with algorithmic inference. And once you learn to recognize them, you will see them everywhere. You will see them in the footnotes of polls that news outlets report without reading. You'll see them in the methodology sections that are buried at the bottom of press releases and never discussed on air. You'll see them in the confident assertions of pundits who have never asked whether the numbers they are citing came from a person or a prediction. So here is what to look for, not because you are planning to become a pollster, but because literacy is the antidote to the helplessness that synthetic data produces. The helplessness that says you cannot know what is real. The helplessness that says all numbers are equally suspect or equally valid, which is the same thing. When you see a poll reported, look for the sample size. If it is under 1,000 respondents for a national poll, be suspicious. Look for the response rate. If it is not reported, be very suspicious. Look for the dates the poll was in the field. If it was conducted in a single day or two, be suspicious, because real human polling takes time. And most importantly, look for any mention of modeling, simulation, synthetic data, or AI-assisted methodology. If you see those words, understand that you are not looking at a photograph of public opinion. You are looking at a painting of public opinion created by an artist whose training data is the past, whose brushstrokes are statistical assumptions, and whose gallery is the 24-hour news cycle. And here are the 3 questions to ask, not in a debate, but in a moment of clarity, when you are ready to know rather than guess. First question, who was actually asked? Not how many people were in the sample, but how many were real human beings who picked up a phone or answered a text or sat down for an interview. Ask for the raw response count before weighting, before modeling, before augmentation. If the answer is vague or proprietary, you're not looking at evidence. You are looking at a product. Second question, what is the margin of error for the synthetic portion of the sample? Real polls report margins of error based on statistical principles that assume random human response. Synthetic polls cannot calculate a true margin of error because the synthetic respondents do not have independent minds. They have correlations. They have patterns derived from other data. Their uncertainty is not statistical, it is ontological. Ask how the firm accounts for the fact that a significant portion of their sample never existed. Ask what happens to the margin of error when you replace human unpredictability with algorithmic consistency. The answer, if they are honest, is that they do not know. The answer, if they are not honest, is silence. Third question, what would it cost to do this without synthesis? What would it cost to call real people, to wait for real answers, to accept the mess and slowness and expense of actual human voice? The answer is that it would cost more. It would take longer. It would produce less granular data. It would be harder to sell to clients who want weekly tracking polls and demographic micro-targeting and instant turnaround for breaking news cycles. It would be, in other words, journalism rather than content production. It would be democracy rather than market research. And the fact that the industry has chosen synthesis over substance is not a technological inevitability. It is a choice. A choice made by firms who want to stay profitable, by news outlets who want to fill airtime, by campaigns who want to optimize messaging rather than understand constituents. A choice that you are now equipped to see, to name, and to refuse. I want to leave you with something Elena told me, because it is smaller than all of this and somehow larger too. She said that she still has the recordings from her early years in the call center, cassette tapes, actual physical tapes of real interviews with real people. She keeps them in a drawer and listens to them sometimes when the synthetic reports feel overwhelming. She told me about one tape in particular, a woman in rural Ohio who was asked about her opinion on trade policy and who, after 5 minutes of hesitation, started talking about her son's factory job and her husband's disability and the way the town's main street had emptied out over 20 years. The woman never answered the trade question directly. She told a story instead. She changed the subject. She made the pollster listen to something the pollster hadn't asked about. And Elena said that this woman, this real person with her real life and her real refusal to fit the question, she is the reason polling mattered. Not because she provided a data point, because she provided a presence, a voice that could not be predicted, could not be modeled, could not be synthesized, a voice that insisted on being heard on its own terms, in its own time, with its own messy, human, irreducible truth. You still have that voice. It is the one that said no when you looked at the poll numbers. It is the one that felt the hollowness before you understood the mechanism. It is the one that knows the difference between being counted and being heard, between being sampled and being listened to. That voice is not a data point. It is not a demographic profile. It is not a synthetic respondent generated to fill a gap in a statistical model. It is you. It is real. And in a world that is increasingly built on the efficient replacement of human presence with algorithmic prediction, the simple act of trusting that voice, of refusing to let it be smoothed into a curve or weighted into a composite, that act is not just personal. It is political. It is the foundation of whatever democracy we still have the courage to build. Until next time.